Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity, a show about weirdos. With your hosts, John Fahey, Aaron Pita, and Matt Brousseau.
Hello, folks. Welcome to Profiles in Eccentricity. It's a show about weirdos, doggone it. My name is John Fahey. Joining me, as ever, handsome son of a bitch, prettiest man on the planet, high-functioning pervert.
He's a high-functioning pervert.
Master of the art of hyperversion, gorgeous son of a bitch, Aaron Joseph Pita. How are you, Aaron?
I am, I'm so perverted.
You're sick.
I'm sick. I'm gross.
Gross.
I got a problem. I got a disease.
You're going to get really gross this episode. I love it.
Yes. I think in this episode, I am the Maquis.
You are absolutely the Marquise.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Happy birthday.
Thank you. Happy birthday to me. Yeah.
Okay, calm down.
Yeah. I'm getting all chubbed up over here. Also joining us, as always, Dapper Daddy, celestially good boy, Mr. Matt Brousseau. How are you, Matt?
I'm great. It is great to be here. I'm always happy to be here.
Cosmically
consummate professional. Love him.
I'd like to consummate him.
Wow. Yeah.
Hey. Ooh.
I want to say right up top, this is the first episode we will be doing on the Star Burns Network.
Wow, it's a good show.
It's a good show.
That's the one.
Yeah, well, presumably we're a good show, right?
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to our puberty network, which was the Unpops.
The Godfather.
Yeah. Adam Todd Brown.
Thank you, Adam.
Yes,
thank
our
you,
benefactor,
Adam.
our sponsor.
We got
Thank you to Adam and all the rest of the Unpops.
Thank you to Angie, who was, I first told her about the idea for the show, and she was all about it. And they have been extremely kind to us, and we cannot thank them enough. All of the fans from Unpops have been so kind to us. When we started our Patreon, of course, most of the subscribers were longtime Unpops fans that were into the show. And we love you guys. We really appreciate it. In our last couple of episodes, we have been asking everyone to, hype up, get the show going, get the show known to other people by saying, your favorite episode. And a ton of people have been making posts on Instagram and Twitter and saying, check out the show. Here's my favorite episode. This is why I like it. And it's been really, really nice. And it's really humbling.
Yes. And that personal touch really is.
Yeah.
It's sweet.
It's personal.
Yes.
It's nice.
So
it's soft.
If you haven't done it, please tell people why you love the show. If you love the show, just tell people, here's the episodes I'm into, here's what I like.
Yeah.
It really makes a big deal. People get into it.
Grassroots, baby.
Yeah. We want to know why it matters to you. We talk about all kinds of disgusting weirdos and perverts and extraordinary individuals that are not so disgusting and poignant tales and incredible biographies. But all of it is weird, strange things that we think that you guys should know about. And we love doing this show. I would love to do it till the day I die, which is exactly how long I will love you.
Wow.
Till the day I die.
Wow.
Aaron, that's right. Yeah.
That's because the day you stop loving me, I will kill you.
I know. And now, Aaron, you're going to launch us off here. You are doing a profile, very special treat. Absolutely cannot wait. You are profiling the perhaps the pinnacle of perversion.
Yes.
Before you.
I stand on the shoulders of giants, of course.
Yes.
Of course.
Yes.
Filthy shoulders.
Sputum, detritus-covered shoulders.
Yes. Behind every great pervert
and inside one.
Psychosexual sadomaniac.
Yes. Actually, the namesake of sadism, the one Marquis de Sade.
Marquis. Are you sure it's not Maquis?
I am sure it is not the Marquis.
Yes.
Although the Prince of Porn would have you think otherwise.
Yes, episode 3, folks, if you're not aware.
I am the Marquis. And in my most demanding role yet, I will be profiling the Marquis de Sade.
Very exciting.
Oh, God, this one is fucking gross. Trigger warning.
Yep, trigger warning, nasty.
If you think the guy who mummifies his patient lover and keeps her vagina open with a cardboard tube is bad,
or a guy who eats out a horse
Yeah,
Right,
vagina.
Previous subjects on Profiles in Eccentricity, of course.
Right. If you think, white stains is bad poetry.
Right.
Oh, yes.
Aleister Crowley's magnum opus.
Where do you get a load of this?
Okay, let's lay it on me. Let's start.
All right, so best known as the Marquis de Sade, Donatien Alphonse Francois was born in Paris. June 2nd, 1740. His father was a wealthy diplomat in the court of Louis XV. And his mother was a lady-in-waiting, as they
Right.
known.
Yeah, it's never a good waiting.
No.
It's not
She's
kind of, oh shit.
toe tapping.
Yeah. Who's it gonna
usually
be?
waiting to be oppressed.
Yeah.
Right, restless leg syndrome.
From the start, he was raised with servants who catered to his every whim, and he was a real spoiled brat. And not long into his childhood, his father abandoned his mother. Just see you later, and she lived in a convent.
That's more waiting.
Yeah, forever.
Wow.
Yeah.
For God.
Wow.
And like by the time he was 4, he was like a notorious little shit. Like
God.
a dirty motherfucker.
You dirty
You
bastard.
little baby pervert. Yeah, he had like a bad temper. He once beat the French prince so severely that he was sent to the south of France to stay with his uncle, who was an abbot in the church.
The church is good at setting people places.
Yeah. Oh, set you real straight. So he was 6 years old when he was sent to go live with his uncle, who was a priest and abbot.
Right. Who was the Costello?
Well, I think the Costello might have been the mother and daughter duo that he kept in the house to answer to his every sexual whim.
Trouble.
Also frequented orgies at monasteries, etc., etc. So
Monasteries?
Yes. So he had a creepy uncle who introduced him to debaucherous ways
At like 6?
at the age of 6.
Jesus.
Good God. In the house of God.
In the house of God.
It's important for God to know what's going on.
Yeah.
You might as well do the filthiest things there.
Wow.
Mother-daughter duo in the house to answer to his every sexual whim, the priest. Got it.
Not the Marquis.
No, the Marquis was taking notes and jerking off.
It's a young Anthony Kiedis situation.
Under the bridge. He was, despite, I guess maybe including this, he was well educated throughout his youth. He attended a Jesuit school, but he was subject to corporal punishment, like any good Jesuit pupil is, namely flagellation. So, this is probably where he started getting the combination of pain and pleasure. He's watching his uncle bang, the mother and daughter, and the orgies, and then also getting whipped.
Right, so they're always in tandem. So at some point, you don't separate them.
Exactly. Why? Hey, kill 2 birds with one stone.
Yeah.
Flagellate 2 birds with one penis.
Oh, Jesus.
Wow.
So yeah, he was obsessed. He spent the rest of his life obsessed with with all sorts of pain and pleasure, but specifically flagellation was paramount in his repertoire.
Self-flagellation.
Self, other people, mainly other people.
Right.
Later, he had joined an elite military academy. And he even went on to serve in the 7 Years' War.
Okay.
He is from a somewhat noblish family. That's how he gets the title of the Marquis.
Right.
It's after he served in the 7 Years' War that his sexual proclivities really began to emerge, and I think maybe the war did that to him, but also he was like 16, so at that age, anybody's sexual proclivities are going to start to emerge.
Right.
But in 1763, so at this point he's 23, he married his first and only wife, Renée Pélagier de Montreuil.
How do you spell that last part?
Montreuil.
Oh, okay. Almost Montreal.
Almost Montreal, but Montreuil. Which of course means he met her.
You're supposed to jump in there, man.
Yeah. He only met her 2 days prior to the wedding. It was an arranged marriage. because it was arranged by their parents. Her family was wealthy, but socially inferior to the Sade family.
Right, so less noble.
Right, so his family got some money and coin, and their family got some social standing.
Okay.
So it was mutually beneficial. Moved in with his new bride and her family in Paris, but he also kept a secret apartment.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh, that's always... When somebody's got a secret apartment or a secret basement or any sort of secret quarters...
Yeah, those aren't good secrets.
No, it's not. It's not usually full of treasures.
Yeah, chances are it's Dungeon Town.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mont Donjon.
Oh, that means it's a mountain dungeon.
Salon Donjon. So it's at this secret apartment that Sade began to test the limits of human sexuality.
Oh, God. A lot of noise complaints.
God. Well, and this was also, this was the age of libertines. So the things that I'm going to get into, I mean, they do eventually border on just criminal.
Pure insanity.
Pure ridiculousness.
Yeah.
But
luring the devil to the earthly plane.
Kind of open sexuality and sodomy and all these things were...
Who's to say?
Hey, is that weird? Is that abnormal? Who's to say?
That you're.
But what really ended up getting him was, the blasphemy portion of this, because, like you talked about this in one of your previous episodes, and I think we talked about it with perhaps Oscar Wilde or something. Was that they were all doing this nasty shit anyways, but when it was politically expedient for them, they used it against you.
Right. Absolutely.
And so they did that with Maquis. His first run-in with the law came at the age of 23, right after he was married, when he took prostitute Jeanne Testard to his secret apartment. He locked the door and quietly asked her if she believed in God.
Oh, God, jeez. That's...
Click. Do you believe in God?
Oh, no.
Jesus Christ. To which she replied that she was a good Catholic. Bad answer. He ripped her clothes off, shoved pieces of communion wafers inside her vagina, and started having sex with her, and shouting, "If thou art God, avenge yourself." God did not respond.
Are we starting here?
This is, yeah.
Is this the beginning?
Yep.
Oh, my God. Oh, my God, Aaron.
He didn't answer.
Yeah. 23
Yeah, he's 20.
communion wafers.
Up in there.
Hey,
And
you
then,
don't happen to believe in God, do you? I'm a Catholic. We'll see about that.
There's no good answer to that question.
oh, it's a
It's not
trick.
a
It's a trick
question. It's a
question.
trick question.
It's definitely
Yeah.
a trick question. Communion wafers in the vagina, shouting, "If thou art God, avenge yourself." He did not respond. To further prove his point, he went on to masturbate using 2 crucifixes. And he tried to give her an enema so that she would shit in a holy chalice, all the while referring to Jesus as a motherfucker and the Virgin Mary as a buggeress.
Buggeress.
A female buggerer.
How does that happen?
But you say it out loud.
Well, yeah, you just
try your best.
yeah.
So...
I think he sandwiched his dick in between 2 crosses.
Okay. Yeah.
Long ways.
So Jesus
long
was
ways.
touching him the entire time.
Right,
Yeah.
Well,
long
2
way.
of them.
Yeah.
2 G.
got 2 of them.
It's a communion sauce.
You don't have to.
Yeah, I'm not gonna.
All right. It's a holy threesome. It's a menage a Christ.
I mean, that would be a devil's triangle.
Hey, now we're talking.
Now we're relevant.
He was arrested. He was arrested, but his royal connections got him out of trouble, and he was exiled to his castle.
Oh,
How unfair.
5 years later, he had a run-in with the police for imprisoning a young girl, whipping her with a cat o' nine tails, and then masturbating into her wounds.
Oh, God.
You can't exile someone to their own castle. That's not an exile.
So if you don't know about the show, people are left in the dark except the person doing the profile. So I'm just going to tell you, I thought this shit with the Maquis, Sade, was all kind of like a written hyperbole, not practiced insanity.
We're gonna get to that.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
The open wounds, perfect.
Yeah, nutting into them. But you gotta remember, this is before AIDS, so like whatever.
Okay, right. Good. Healed him right up.
Yep.
It's no poultice.
Got the remedy for that. Yeah.
Then he had police run in again at the age of 32 for poisoning 4 prostitutes with what he called Spanish fly, so they would fart as he sodomized them.
Oh no.
Yep. Yeah. So word started spreading around that year amongst the whores.
Yeah.
And the brothels and bordellos. They've been warned around Paris about Sade, and they were instructed to not go home with him. On one of his visits, he
started wearing funny mustaches.
Yeah. My name is Mark. On one of his visits, he brought a crystal box filled with chocolates to give to his companions. After some time, however, many of the women reported feeling violently ill and started vomiting a dark substance.
It's probably chocolate. I hope.
I think it was a bad batch of that Spanish fly.
Yeah.
Easter Sunday, 1768.
Perfect.
So this is actually just before some of the farting stuff, but he was arrested again after he invited a chambermaid to his private torture apartment. Whipping her, cutting her with a knife, and dripping hot candle wax into her wounds.
Oh.
His family paid the woman to keep her goddamn mouth shut. But after it became like socially embarrassing for the family, and so he was.
You think?
Yeah. He also said, I did no such thing. I was rubbing ointment on her wounds.
Right.
Yeah, but his chocolate isn't chocolate, so his ointment isn't ointment.
No, you're lucky it's wax and not nut, lady. So he kind of like started
might get pregnant,
living on the margins of society at that point.
Yeah, an old exile in the castle will do that too.
He was imprisoned once again in 1771 for debt.
Is he doing anything between this? Is he like opening a winery? Or...
Not opening wounds.
Yes.
You know, he's a wealthy family.
He doesn't need
to, and I don't even think he's really writing at this point.
Right.
This is a boy who wakes up with nothing to do all day.
Yes. I mean, that's all of these dudes, a number of the ones that I've profiled have just been fucking rich dudes with nothing better to do.
Right. So
overeducated, underoccupied.
Yeah.
Underemployed.
Yeah.
Overpaid,
undercivilized.
Yes. Or hyper-civilized. Who knows?
Or completely, without any form of morality whatsoever.
Fuck a dog. Parsons.
Yeah, I mean, all these guys with a bunch of time on their hands immediately are like, man, I gotta try to find this devil.
Yeah, it's always.
And if I could nut, that'd be great. Let's think about this.
How do I get the? I bet you know what I bet. Well, the devil will show up for is a bunch of blood and nut.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But the devil's like, he doesn't want any part of that. It sounds like he's got other things to do.
It's like Jesus fucking Christ, man.
So he's sent to debtor's prison again, or he's sent to prison again. This time for debt.
Yeah, for debt, but not the open wound nutting.
No, you can't. No.
Yeah, it's like, Capone's tax evasion.
Yeah.
You got to get him for something.
Yeah.
Well, that's what he went to
debtor's prison.
When he got arrested for the crucifix cock sandwich, that was for blasphemy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Which was a serious crime.
Right, yeah, but not, I mean, transformationally traumatizing a human being.
Oh, and getting her to shit in a chalice.
Oh, right.
Yeah, that's blasphemy too.
Can you imagine, like, Indiana Jones finding that? And like, this is not the chalice of a carpenter.
I bet it's this one.
That's one that smells like shit. You have chosen poorly. Face melt.
Right, the carpenters didn't have a porta potty though. Maybe
Christ would have had to shit in a cup. Yes, that's it.
but it's this one.
Jesus Christ. I'm sorry, everybody, if this is your first impression of the show.
Yeah,
Upon his release, he seduced his sister-in-law,
perfect.
who was both a canoness, which is kind of like a nun, and a virgin.
Oh God.
Ran off with her to Marseille, south of France, accompanied by his loyal valet, Latour, homosexual lover.
Okay.
In Marseille, it was reported that he brought along with him kind of what they refer to as a paper cat.
That's not good. I don't know what that is, but it's not good.
You know what a fleshlight is? Imagine one made out of paper and then also stuck with pins and branches in it.
What?
Good God.
Yeah.
No, I don't. I won't imagine it.
Take Pinhead's head from Hellraiser.
Yeah, conservative in this world.
Yeah.
And I was gonna be grossed out by like a cat skin.
Oh no! This was a paper mache fleshlight
Full of pins,
needles, and branches.
So
and
he's
switches.
gonna.
Well, you just
Well, I mean, if you flagellate during the sex, then you save yourself time.
exactly.
Right.
One stroke,
2 strokes, 3 strokes.
you're out.
Yeah.
No, Aaron.
Yes, John.
I know you to be an imaginative man.
Yeah,
And what would you say after diddling this cat? The man's hog looked like.
Well, I would. When you put a hot dog in the microwave for a little bit too long.
Right.
You're supposed to, put some cuts in it.
Well,
originally.
maybe that's what he was. Maybe that's what he was thinking ahead. He's like, I don't want my dick to explode when I put it in a microwave that hasn't been invented
right.
yet.
He thought it would taste better.
Yeah. It cook more evenly.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right, fair enough.
You know what like the lines like a churro has, like those score marks.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. He would have a nice asterisk.
Yeah. A
Penis.
lot of cool scar tissue.
Right.
Probably
There you
like
go.
that.
Yeah, again to the chili peppers.
I mean, this guy had a lot of sex, and
Yeah. All of it.
I mean, I'm sure a lot of it had to do with like money and power and social status, but like even later on in his life, he was doing a lot of sex stuff when he must have just had like a huge dick, you know? Like,
or it was numb as hell, and it's like he had to beat it with a book to get it awake.
well, yeah, but you got he did have a number of willing participants.
Sure.
Right. And now, would you say that was because of status and wealth?
That's what I think that's.
Or do you think it was actually? Well, I mean, I know we kind of do like a wrap up usually after the end of these things, but I just want to explore an idea.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not letting the man off the hook because he's obviously
He loves being on the hooks.
He's
It's part of the issue.
He's a complete monster. And definitely doing it to the weaker people in his world that have no interest in this horror. But it seems to me that part of what might, spawn this kind of thinking is this intense religion of the time, and the idea that it's all about
Power
and punishment and that world is kind of so real of every it's easy to forget now, but like if you were a pious person back in the day, every single second of your life you were thinking about the afterlife and God and him watching you, and I think there's like a weird thing where you want to if not challenge it, then enter that discussion.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm not going into a lot of his other stuff, but I mean he is regarded as a philosopher,
Right.
and because of, and when we get into some of the works, I guess you'll kind of see why, but there are some people that see early feminism in some of his works.
Of course.
Well, I'll get to it. Like the like Freudian psychoanalysis.
All right.
And I mean, he was very well educated and had
he's like a sexual Bear Grylls of his time.
Yeah, but and probably a lot of because of the piss drinking. Yeah. He had a lot of time. He eventually spent 32 years of his life in prison.
Right.
And he did a lot of exploration of various themes.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll read you some quotes of his a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't dumb by any stretch of the imagination.
No. I'm sorry if that derailed you. I just wanted to.
No. I want to make sure I'm addressing your question. What else? What did you want to know?
Well, no, I just think like the heaviness of religion at the time is so omnipresent in everybody's mind.
Yeah.
That there's kind of like a thing of like we either want to completely rebel from it, or we want to enter into the discussion in a way that even if we're damned forever, we at least kind of find out it's real.
Right.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
And back then they didn't have the understanding of what happens to the brain with trauma. So they focus more on physical trauma than mental trauma.
Right.
I mean, that's I don't know if that's true, but that's the impression I'm getting from this is there are ways to sexually torture people without ever fucking a knife fleshlight.
Right. Which he used on himself.
Right.
Yes.
By all accounts, he liked to get it as much as he liked to give it. So we did the paper cat thing in Marseille, but he ran away with his sister-in-law, who he seduced as a virgin.
And now was she jealous of the cat at all?
Well, she killed the cat.
Imagine being his brother. Jesus.
He also took his valet with him, Latour, and demanded to be sodomized by him quite a bit.
No, that's a good valet.
And he was.
Come on!
Drive this.
In 1772, he would commit more vile acts with some prostitutes and his manservant Latour. This was in Marseille, involved the non-lethal incapacitating of prostitutes with more of that Spanish fly shit and sodomy. And so he was banished to exile in Italy.
That's tough.
And I think it was Sardinia. I think that's where Napoleon was exiled as well. And even though sodomy was very popular amongst the aristocracy, especially libertines and all that, it was an excuse to get rid of the guy.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in power, it's always nice to say,
"You're in power." Hey, yeah, right, bro. Piss in the air. Piss in the air.
Piss. If you are in power, then you can always say, "Oh, it doesn't matter that I'm cheating on my wife with these 25 prostitutes. At least I'm not that guy."
Right.
Vote for me.
Right.
Hey, that guy's nuts, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, kind of get back to what you were saying. That libertine philosophy kind of was like let's see how far we can push it, and
right. Well,
there's a religious element too of like life is. I think he had a quote, or maybe it was just another libertine quote of pleasure at any cost.
Right.
And for him, pleasure was, let's see how far we can push it.
Yeah. I mean, anytime there's like that thing of like, like kind of like liberal rebellion, it's like, it goes like, so far that people are like, okay, that's the line. It's like when like, sexual revolution and like, we're now accepting like all the homosexuality, and it's like, Nambla's like, us too, right? Like,
no.
But
Hellraiser's in the background. Stay over there, Nambla.
But yeah, you know what I mean?
Okay, so these banished to exile in Italy. Him and Latour, loyal valet, sodomite, sentenced to death.
Latour is.
Both of them. They're sentenced to death in absentia. I mean, so they're exiled, but the courts in France are like, we're sentencing them to death. They fled to Italy, right? They take the sister with them. They were caught, then they were imprisoned in late 1772, but then they escaped 4 months later.
Really?
Yeah, he...
It's gotta be easy to arrest him, though, because he just put a picture of a weird-looking penis on the
yeah, have you seen this paper cat? He then hid at an estate in Lacoste where he rejoined his wife, who, by all accounts, was a real piece of shit too. She became an accomplice in all of his like subsequent perversions and endeavors. She agreed to procure for the Maquis 6 children.
No.
Procure?
Yeah, procure.
Okay.
Gather.
Get.
Okay.
Find.
Yeah.
Abscond with,
Right.
kidnap, if you will.
Yeah, I guess you don't want to use that.
They were supposed to be servants, but they really for his to play in his laboratory of sadism hidden deep within their castle.
Not like...
It took 6 weeks before the parents became suspicious. Where's the little Jacques?
I wonder if his mind has been transformed.
We sent him to go work for the Marquis de Sade.
Yeah, it's very noble.
Oh, de Sade. I thought you said de Sade.
Oops. The R is silent so often in French. Parents became suspicious, and he was eventually arrested and imprisoned. And this was the end of his like serious sexual misadventures as a free man, because he spent the rest of his life in and out of prison. And he had this pattern of like, shit got squirrely, he'd flee the country. Like the same kind of thing Crowley would do. Like, I'm gonna go to Italy, and I'm gonna go here just to get it, lay low for a while. In 1777, after yet another set of girls ran screaming from his chateau, the father of one of the women marched up to de Sade and attempted to shoot him at point-blank range.
Wow.
Unfortunately, the gun misfired.
Mm-hmm.
He ended up spending 32 years of his life back and forth between prisons and asylums. So that was 1777 to 1790. In 1777, he's arrested and sent to the Chateau de Vincennes outside of Paris. That's a prison. And then he...
Sounds nice.
It's a chateau.
It's a chateau.
Yeah.
Hey, it's
Right.
not too bad. It's when he is transferred to the Bastille that he writes his epic work, 120 Days of Sodom.
Right.
So the moment he can't fuck, he's actually writing.
Yes, basically. He has to exorcise these demons somehow.
Right. Yeah, it's a good case for a neuter.
And I brought some excerpts.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, just because I want to put something in perspective. He wrote 120 Days of Sodom. Give me one second.
You just want to hear me say it like I did it.
So, 120 Days of Sodom was written over the course of 37 days in the Bastille on one long piece of...
Toilet paper.
Yeah.
That's
pieces of paper that he stitched together into one scroll that he wasn't supposed to have. And you're assuming it's toilet paper.
Is this before or after the storming?
This is before the storming of the Bastille.
So imagine storming and you find this guy. Like, all right, lock it back up.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing of commonly, pieces of art written in prisons, toilet paper.
Yeah, so 120 Days of Sodom...
which is apt.
Yeah.
Had been after the storming of the Bastille, where he was there when it happened.
Yeah.
They let him go. Because he had played to their sympathy of him being a victim of the aristocracy.
Right, and conservatism.
And yes, and he was shouting, "Oh, they're beheading people in here. It's it's pandemonium."
Yeah.
So let him go. And as a matter of fact, they're
beheading people without coming in their necks.
It's gross.
Yeah, he makes a good point.
There's a whole thing after the storming of the Bastille, but I wanna just kind of compare it to a modern work of erotic.
I love whatever you're gonna do. I don't know what you're gonna do.
So I'm gonna give you Matt. I'm gonna give you an excerpt from 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh, great! One of our
50 Shades of Grey. Hundreds of millions of copies sold.
Yes.
One of the best-selling books of all time.
That's amazing.
Motion pictures, trilogies, books. One of the most popular books of all time. Story of the young, naive, nubile English major Anastasia Steele, who finds herself drawn into an affair with a handsome, wealthy businessman, Christian Grey, whose kinky lifestyle opens her mind, heart, and presumably her mouth and butt.
Whoa.
I wrote that.
Nice.
So, Matt, I'll have you read that in 1 second. And, John, I'm going to have you read...
What you got for John, boy?
I'm not...
It sounds timid compared to everything.
Yeah. Gnarliest perversion you got John boy to read.
I'm going to have you read... I'm going to have you read that one in just a second, John. But, Matt... You go ahead and read that excerpt from 50 Shades of Grey, worldwide bestseller, paragon of erotic literature.
This is from page 323. At the touch of leather, I quiver and gasp. He walks around me again, trailing the crop around the middle of my body. On his second circuit, he suddenly flicks the crop, and it hits me underneath my behind. Against my sex. The shock runs through me, and it's the sweetest, strangest, hedonistic feeling. My body convulses at the sweet, stinging bite. My nipples harden and elongate from the assault, and I moan loudly, pulling on my leather cuffs. Just like people think. That's how he runs. And
John, you're going to read from 120 Days of Sodom, written in the Bastille on a single sheet of paper, like on the road, by Jack Kerouac.
Yeah, also
on the load. That tells the story of 4 wealthy male libertines who resolved to experience the ultimate in sexual gratification and orgies. To do this, they sealed themselves away for 4 months in an inaccessible castle in the heart of the Black Forest with a harem of 36 victims, mostly male and female teenagers, and engaged 4 female brothel keepers to tell stories of their lives and adventures. The women's narrative form an inspiration for the sexual abuse and torture of the victims, which gradually mounts in intensity and ends in their slaughter. John, go ahead.
How have you been shitting recently? Just a little while ago, Father. Why, that's nice. And so there's nothing left in your bowels, says the ledger. Well, we're going to see. In order to ensure there's no shit in the girl, the abbot injects milk into her anus. He then lays on a bed and furiously masturbates while she sits on his face and delivers a milk enema Eucharist. His mouth, sealed hermetically to her asshole, catches every drop of the precious liquid that leaps out of it. He swallows it all.
Every drop.
And just when he swills down the final mouthful, his fuck escapes, and he is hurled into a delirium.
Isn't that rich?
Oh, subtle.
Here, and just because I like it.
Sounds just like an Italian film.
Here's another from 50 Shades of Grey. Again, paragon of provocative erotic literature.
Yeah, taboo.
Hundreds of millions of copies sold.
Before I know it, he's got both of my hands in his vice-like grip above my head, and he's pinning me to the wall using his lips. His other hands grab my hair and yank down, bringing my face up, and his lips are on mine. My tongue tentatively strokes his and joins his in a slow, erotic dance. His erection is against my belly.
There it is. It's right there.
He's got a hard penis, and we're having fun. That's what this sounds like to me.
And now, Aaron,
his lips pin me against the wall?
I would assume I'm reading from...
And John, again, you're reading from 120 Days of Sodom, written over the course of 37 days in the Bastille on one single sheet of toilet paper.
Shit paper. He throws the scalpel aside, reintroduces his hand, and rummaging through her entrails forces her to shit through her cunt.
Oh, crap.
Another amusing stunt. Intentional rhyme?
I don't know if it rhymes in French.
Who translated that?
Forces her to shit through. Oh boy!
I don't even want to know if that's possible.
Here you go again. Some really sexy, hot, taboo,
dirty,
literature,
weird stuff.
Weird stuff from 50 Shades of Grey.
Not the sequel.
Hundreds of millions of books sold. Worldwide bestseller.
This is from page 277. Following at home. Sitting beside me, he gently pulls my sweatpants down. Up and down like a whore's trousers. Up and down like a whore's drawers. I wrote that line. My subconscious remarks bitterly. In my head, I tell her where to go. Christian squirts baby oil onto his hand and then rubs my behind with his careful tenderness.
Huh.
From makeup remover to soothing balm for a spanked ass. Who would have thought it was such a versatile liquid?
Hot baby oil talk.
Yeah.
Wow.
And they somehow worked in sweatpants into the erotica.
Rubs my behind with careful tenderness. That's careful and tenderness. You don't need both of those.
Yeah.
That is not my only quibble.
Real sick shit.
And John again from 120 Days of Sodom. Prison smut.
I unleashed my turd. It shot squarely into his face. He fell back, exclaimed that I was an insolent creature, and discharged while frigging himself. He had received at least 200 lashes.
It was the best of times.
It was unleashed.
It was the best of times. It was the worst of times.
When a turd is just
On a leash.
it wants to be off
Let it
so
be
bad.
free. And hopefully squarely in his mouth.
This turd was leashed. I won't stand for it. And Aaron, would you like me to read this?
Yeah, again, and just to clarify for the listeners,
Worldwide bestseller.
worldwide, internationally acclaimed,
Yeah. Highly taboo. And,
provocative,
controversial.
incredibly controversial piece of literature, worldwide bestseller, inspiration for motion picture, 50 Shades of Grey.
Page 137. I pull him deeper into my mouth so I can feel him at the back of my throat and then to the front again. My tongue swirls around the end. He's my very own Christian Grey flavored popsicle. I suck harder and harder. My inner goddess is doing the meringue with some salsa moves. Was the meringue?
The merengue.
Merengue.
My inner goddess is doing the merengue with some salsa moves.
Huh. I don't know why they
Hot
have
stuff,
to,
huh?
I don't know why they have to cross the dance moves.
So, and John, this one,
Oh no, what's this one from, Aaron?
gosh, this one is actually from Philosophy in the Bedroom.
Oh!
But you just gotta read it.
Philosophy in the bed. The bedroom is a perfect place for philosophy.
Philosophy in the boudoir, if you will. Oh, and just so you have an idea, a philosophy. This is from a drama. Philosophy in the Bedroom.
Drama.
A 15-year-old daughter, Eugenie, has her virginity taken by a libertine Dolmans, who, along with Madame de Saint-Ange and her brother Le Chevalier, have given her a 2-day course in depravity.
Huh.
When her righteous mother interferes, they decide to torture her. The stage instruction reads, John.
Eugenie takes the pliers and continues to tear chunks of flesh from her mother's legs. When Saint is finished, Le Chevalier steps in and buggering the victim while simultaneously punching both her ears with his fist. Jesus fucking Christ. Punching. And buggering while simultaneously. There's so many appendages of violence. He is followed by Augustine, who, while embuggering the woman, sinks a finger into one of her eyes and a thumb in one of her nostrils. After accomplishing which, he twists his hand until the eye is disengorged and the nostrils split open. During these proceedings, Dolmans reams the anus of each of the torturers.
Holy God.
They got their own shit going on. Finally,
You think you got it, Ben? I'm getting reamed out.
finally, Dolmache has the mother screwed by his valet, who has syphilis, to put his germ-infected snake in both her holes before Eugenie sews them both up.
What?
Yeah.
How long does this take? Gee, I just want to have sex. I don't need...
That's a paragraph. And I'm like, that's a whole day.
How do you sit down and read this book?
And just to compare that one last time with the
Disgusting, absolute
international
pornography.
hit,
Yes, mega smash.
50 Shades of Grey.
Page 116. Suddenly, he sits up and tugs my panties off and throws them on the floor. Pulling off his boxer brief, his erection springs free. Holy cow!
Oh my! She says, "Holy cow!"
His erection springs free. Holy cow!
It's unleashed like the turd.
He kneels up. He kneels up and pulls a condom onto his considerable length. Oh no, will it? How?
I don't know. Who's to say?
Who's to say?
What is this bullshit?
Considerable.
And he's putting a condom on, lady. Just quit asking questions.
He kneels up?
Come on, get real. Anyways, that was 120 Days of Sodom, and with a guest appearance of Philosophy in the Boudoir.
Yeah. They should have went for more shades of gray, you know, because it's 120 versus 50. That's
the number game. You lose the numbers game right away.
Yeah.
Actually, 120 Days of Sodom actually has like an interesting narrative structure. It's written in 4 parts
by an insane person,
by a maniac.
The first part is a paper cat.
It's just written in blood and semen.
It's written on the innards of a paper cat.
Yeah, you have to hold it under a candle that's covered with a stretched human skin over it.
Yeah, you gotta get an MRI to read it.
Yeah. It's written from the perspective of 4 of these aging hookers in the castle.
Yes,
and they're recalling their memory of the most depraved acts they ever saw over the course of 4 months. So each one is a month of depraved acts.
Right.
And each month has 150 depraved acts. So there's 600. It's 37 pages of 600 depraved acts like what you just read.
Right.
Wow. I mean, per page, that's
hey,
amazing.
You bang for your buck, you know?
Good God.
He was in the Bastille when he wrote that.
Yeah.
He when the French Revolution broke out, he was in the Bastille.
Yeah. Carried it on everybody's shoulders.
Yeah.
No, leave. I got to finish this.
And
novel.
he had all of his works that he had written in there.
Right.
And so 120 Days of Sodom was lost forever.
Really?
It wasn't discovered until like 1905.
What was this? Some guy licked all the shit off the toilet paper.
This book's full of shit.
Actually, I do have an excerpt about shit eating. This is actually from Philosophy of the Boudoir. This is actually it's the prologue to the part you read about the turd unleashing. One story within a story tells of a man who made 2 unusual requests before sexual encounters, which he premeditated by a week. A. Those he slept with could not bathe for an entire week before sex. Shouldn't be hard for you, John. B. Those he slept with were required
Very good, Aaron. Very good.
Those he slept with were required to soak 3 cat o' nine tail whips in a bucket of shit and urine for a week before sex.
That's got to be a tell.
No more, no less. Dude, a week.
This smells like a 4-day-old shit and piss cat o' nine tails. I won't have it.
I wonder what he's doing with these.
Fucking amateurs. When the man arrived for a sexual encounter, he went about sniffing all his partner's unwashed holes, then licked them clean.
Clean is not the right word.
They were clean after he was done with them, between bouts of being whipped rotten with the crap and urine-soaked whips.
Oh,
the encounter...
He says the word crap?
Moving on.
It's crap and urine.
Is this shit-coated or crap-coated?
Well, actually, there's a whole... When they had to retranslate a lot of his works that were found, they... You know, does this teton mean tit or booby?
Right.
Does this mean prick or does this mean fuck or frig? There was a whole debate on the
Who writes this shit?
Who translates this shit?
Oh my God.
So French Revolution breaks out. They storm the Bastille. He convinces members of the new regime that he's cool and he'd been a victim of the old aristocracy. Amazingly, they release him from the prison and welcome him into the new government as Citizen de Sade.
Good God.
Hey,
He becomes president of the Pike section of Paris.
That's not good.
While in the position, he pushed to have hospital patients get their own bed in order to do away with sharing of beds, which was common practice in those days.
He's familiar with
and increase the risk of illness.
Well,
but then Napoleon showed up and he was fucked.
I mean, he probably learned a lot about medicine during his trials.
Enemas, etc.
Yeah, but I mean, presumably he'd want share beds. Let's just make one big bed. You know,
bed. So Napoleon threw him back in prison
because
he was a bitch, cunt, asshole, freak, sodomite.
That was it.
Well, and his writings more.
There was a return to conservatism.
Yes, right, and he just you kind of know that he's a real piece of shit. So then he started writing he was released from prison. He started writing anonymously, and this is when he wrote his works Justine, or Good Conduct Well Chastised. He divorced his wife, started living with this actress who he would spend many of his remaining years with. His castle in Lacoste, where he was hiding out, was damaged by an angry mob during the Revolution, so he moved back to Paris. And like I said, he was a member of that new regime for a moment. From 1790 to 1793, he served in the National Convention. And then more publication of his anonymous works showed up again. And then he was thrown back in prison.
Because they knew he was doing it.
Yeah, it was like, this bullshit again.
The meter matches de Sade.
Pliers and shit. I wonder who wrote this. Not me.
What are you looking at me for?
What are you talking about? Separate beds for everyone.
Burp. Dude, your breath smells like shit.
I have to go. I must unleash something.
And, while he was alive, the censors, shuddered at his accounts of rape, incest, and pedophilia, as well as his atheism, which was a big thing. He was a pronounced atheist.
Yeah.
And thousands of his books and belongings were destroyed. And it wasn't until like 1905 that they found this copy of 120 Days of Sodom. That is, I think his wife snuck out of the Bastille. It was hidden like in a bed frame or something, and she took it, and then it just kind of got passed down through like fucking Illuminati people.
Right. Yeah. Anus to anus.
Yeah. And then it got it's a scroll.
Right.
It was used to hold open a corpse's vagina in Florida.
Yes, Jim, come over here. Come over here, Jim. I want you to look at something.
And I know it smells like shit.
Come here. You know how we're both rich. You gotta read this, dude. I mean, yeah. I mean, but really, Aaron. What a thing to make you believe that the Illuminati and nonstop child fucking rings are real is that.
Yeah, exactly.
At this time,
we passed down this hidden scroll written on toilet paper, hidden in a prison, disappeared.
They treasured it.
Yes.
It was treasured.
Yeah, and then what happens? They stick eels in her vagina? Yeah, yes. Yeah. They have a lady on a rack, and he's shoving electric eels in her vagina.
Huh.
I don't know if it's in 120 Days of Sodom. It might be in Justine, where one of the characters... Actually, it may be Juliet, which is kind of written as a political satire, where one of the characters is like, "Mother, aren't you proud of me? I'm committing incest, sodomy, blasphemy, and
electricity, alternating current, not direct current,
and lesbianism."
Oh my god!
Yeah, it's a mess.
It's a fucking mess.
It's a fucking mess.
Aren't you proud of me? Look at all my accomplishments.
I've accomplished so much in one depraved act. Rocco Siffredi, Italian porn legend, made a movie called The Marquis de Sade in 1994.
He did.
Google image that. Go ahead. The movie Salo is an adaptation of it's a loose well, I don't want to say loose adaptation, but it's definitely an adaptation of 120 Days of Sodom.
It is, yeah.
I don't recommend its existence.
I think it's probably one of the most offensive things on.
It's borderline
celluloid
snuff.
Ever.
Yeah. It's bad. They're people eating shit.
And they're really eating the turds. Is that right, Aaron?
I don't think it's real shit.
No.
But they're really eating something that looks like shit.
Yes.
There are gifs of like the people gagging, like just bleh. Just a rotating gif.
Now pretend you're reading real shit.
Good God.
You know that's not real shit you're reading. Huh? It's a decaffeinated
black matter.
Huh?
It's decapitated
Bastard.
Bitch.
This God is my witness.
So he eventually was put into an insane asylum. From 1810 until his death in 1814.
To be fair, every place he was in was immediately an insane.
Yeah, he made it an insane asylum just by him being there. That's correct. But he, during his stay at the insane asylum, in his last years, he wrote and directed a play with the inmates.
Oh boy!
Yeah, they had like a really progressive warden, or it was run by the church. So, whatever you want to call him, abbot or director.
Yeah, some other pervert that loves.
Give him an enema.
Yeah,
put him in a straitjacket.
Yes, he's got a play.
So he let him write a play and direct it. Who knows what kind of nasty shit that he had them doing.
He became the Music Man.
And that play is Charlie and the Chocolate Factory.
I mean, yeah, that's the crazy thing too, though. Is like, this thing is like the whole
Candyman can.
The revolution goes by, and there's still like all this like church shit still in place, and it's like all the fucking corrupt people that were like, having fucking orgies in the monasteries. They don't go anywhere. The revolution happens.
Oh, it happens around him.
All of the worst maniacs that this guy grew up with anyway, they're all just still around, and they're like, hey, this guy's got a lot of good ideas.
Did you read that shit book?
Do you know anything about his public reputation at the time, as far as like when he gets reintroduced to the incarceration? Is there like any like outcry from the public that are like, oh no, we love the Maquis and his nasty shit?
No, and he was really old and gross at that point. So
right,
were there ever calls to execute him?
Yeah, he had a death sentence put on him earlier in life. But then he was exiled to Italy.
Right, the Sardinia thing.
Yeah. He was against the death penalty. Shocking.
Yeah. Go figure.
He
you just flagellated
during those last 4 years in the insane asylum, he developed a romantic relationship with the 13-year-old daughter of an employee of the asylum.
Why was there?
Well, he taught her to read.
Right.
It's so hard to find good teachers back then.
And
but
do other
I
stuff.
I understand that. But...
This word is shit.
He wrote in his will that no one was permitted to open his body for any reason and that his remains should not be touched for 48 hours.
That's a little ironic, I think.
Don't touch me!
Yeah. Get your filthy hands off me.
And certainly don't come in any of my open wounds.
Yeah.
Don't force me to feces.
He also asked that he'd be placed in a coffin and buried in Malmaison on his property. His final wishes were not granted.
Oh, yeah? What did they do with him?
They buried him under the asylum, and his later body was unearthed and his skull removed for study.
This skull for... Oh, right. That's right.
Wow.
They found
Like
skull
phrenology and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I got a bunch of other quotes, but then none of them are going to beat the fucking
unleashing
turds squarely in his mouth type of stuff.
Yeah, if someone wrote that today, I mean, jeez.
He was, he was seen as in some of his works, and I think it might have been Justine, and a lot of his etchings, like the drawings and stuff, women were in the positions of power. Like, they were doing a lot of the whipping or fucking pegging guys.
Oh, right.
And so there are some notable people who see some of his work as proto-feminist, especially because the guys are just getting their asses fucked and fisted and all that stuff. And which is a hallmark of feminism. And like I said, early glimmers of psychoanalysis, like with the eroticization of feces and incest and those power dynamics between your mother and father and sex and all that stuff. So he might have been onto something, when you got a lot of time on your hands and also blood and semen.
Well, there's an idea that I guess what I was getting to was my question earlier that I have, which was like, I think part of what would make you want to bring all this stuff about when you know, religion is taken so seriously and taken, I mean, completely at its word, that it's real, is that, you know, you would believe that the entire, like, you know, the flesh is just always corrupt, right? Humanity is always corrupt.
So corrupt it more.
So now, you know, basically, like, demand judgment, and that also pertains to the thing of, you know, demand the judgment of women for the crimes of men, you know, and their abuse of power. So it's like, you know, the idea to me is like women in positions of power punishing men because it's comeuppance, and then his other thing is demanding God admonish humanity because...
Well, yeah, it's the whole Frankenstein thing. You know, I implore the Creator, did I beg to be fashioned out of clay?
Right.
I didn't ask for that. You made me this way.
Yeah.
So I'm going to do it.
Yeah, and also I demand a conversation. And if judgment is a conversation, it's at least something important, right?
So we said, in order to know virtue, we must first acquaint ourselves with vice. Imperious, choleric, irascible, extreme in everything, with a dissolute imagination, the like of which has never been seen, atheistic to the point of fanaticism, there you have me in a nutshell. And kill me again or take me as I am, for I shall not change.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, to echo that, like, him being an atheist, and I know a lot of initial reactions, well, of course he is. He's a pervert and all these things. But it's like, who put God to the test more than Maquis de Sade?
Yeah, he shoved a communion wafer and said, God, you know, if you're here, stop me.
I mean, if the devil was real, surely he would have brought upon something, or, you know, if God was real, surely he would have brought upon something.
And if the devil was real, he'd be in the corner
right
taking notes.
Yeah, so maybe the devil is real. Yeah. Maybe God isn't. But it just talks about, like, God doesn't matter any of this. It's just money, power, and status. That's
there's something about those guys that makes me feel like they actually, like, believe in it all heartier than anybody.
Well, they believe in something. You know, that the divine right of kings, like, they fucking believed it enough.
Yeah.
Or at least they made other people believe it enough for them. Let's see what else you said. My passions, concentrated on a single point, resemble the rays of a sun assembled by a magnifying glass. They immediately set fire to whatever object they find in their way.
Ugh.
If it is the dirty element that gives pleasure to the act of lust, then the dirtier it is, the more pleasurable it is bound to be. I've already told you, the only way to a woman's heart is along the path of torment. I know none other as sure.
Ugh. That's the only thing, like, that's just him.
He's just a nut.
Not being aware of the other options.
Yeah.
Cruelty, very far from being a vice, is the first sentiment nature injects in us all. The infant breaks his toy, bites his nurse's breast, strangles his canary long before he's able to reason.
What?
Cruelty is stamped in animals, in whom, as I think I have said, nature's laws are more empathetically to be read than in ourselves. Cruelty exists among savages, so much nearer to nature than civilized men are. Absurd than to maintain cruelty is a consequence of depravity. Cruelty is simply the energy in a man civilization has not yet altogether corrupted. Therefore it is a virtue, not a vice. Huh?
I believe that's called projection.
Yeah, sexual excess drives out pity in man.
Again,
Wow.
But it's also like, you know, the idea that animals are like naturally cruel isn't always true.
Absolutely.
No,
totally.
They're fucking hungry.
Yeah.
And they're not always cruel, right?
Right.
So this was also at the time that, like, Hobbes was talking and Rousseau were having their debates about the noble savage or you know, inherent human nature, and this guy was just finding, you know, I think really just finding excuses for his own behavior.
Yeah.
As you know, I think a lot of French philosophers have and this is gross generalization, but, like, I think French philosophers kind of have a penchant for circular talk to justify whatever they think sounds cool. So, like, French postmodernism that happened, like, in the 70s and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of rebelliousness.
Yeah, and it's just like, nothing matters, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Because it fits with what I'm doing in the moment.
Exactly. So, you know, don't blame me for, fist
that part
I'm
of
an
philosophy
animal.
that really annoys me. It was like, well, if you think about it this way, and it's like, well,
But, no.
if you think about anything anyway, you can justify anything, you jackass.
Right. But I think he was onto something. I don't think I read the quote, but that the whole psychoanalysis thing with Freud is that the libido is like the driving force,
right,
and that everything is a slave to that, and he just kind of embraced it. He even said it like, just if it's a vice, I'm gonna take the power away from it by embracing it. So it's no longer my drive.
Well, I would say of anything you said, the smartest thing he says is to understand virtue, you must understand vice.
Right.
Yes. Right. Yeah. And that is, I think that's a wise thing to say.
Yeah.
But for libido to be the driving force, you have to have a life where, when that happens,
somebody wants to procreate with you. Yeah.
Because you can make that your goal, but unless you have money, power, and status,
right,
you're going to stop very quickly.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, there's that whole thing about, the aristocracy always has that thing of like, oh, there should be a return to primitivism. It's like, yeah, because you're in a fucking room and don't have a job.
Yes, exactly.
You know what I mean?
It's easy for you to say we're out here being primitive.
Yeah. Like, everybody's like, oh, if you think about it, it should be like this. It's like, you would be the first to die.
Yeah, you have time to think? Fuck you. I mean, the fact that they didn't behead him in the Bastille is just nuts.
It is really crazy. I mean, that is something I think I would like to find out more about. Like
he was a prisoner of conscience, right? So
yeah,
I think in any revolution, that's another way to stick it to the man. Is what the people that you think are criminals, we think they're just fucking fine.
You start doing the enemy of my enemy instead of being like, maybe some of it was...
he's butt fucking us all, shit!
And with the nature of the French Revolution...
That's the rat saying it.
Like, a revolution itself is usually run by chickens with their heads cut off. And as the French Revolution... It went through all of these stages where the people who were in power, then they were taken over.
Yes.
And then the next group claimed power, and then they were taken over. And so each of these groups was then beheaded until finally, like, Napoleon came in.
Showed up.
Amongst the rabble, Napoleon came in and said, I got a list and I have an army.
Yeah,
same thing with Russia, too, is that they went around just like, you're the leader now, even though you're one of us. Kill you.
Right. Yeah. Until you get Stalin, who's the thuggiest one of all.
Strongman.
Yeah.
Very interesting. Very interesting.
Very, very good stuff, Aaron.
That's the Maquis de Sade.
I felt like I had like a car on my back.
A car?
Like the weight of a car on my back.
Was anybody nutting? Or
I don't know.
Foot on the gas pedal?
Yeah, it was
burning rubber on your chains.
It was really hard to go through some of the shit. I didn't know he was such a. I really thought it was just a guy that was like, hey, I'm a rich guy. Let me tell you about some of my fantasies.
Right.
And like society was like, ooh, but I didn't know he was such a practicing maniac.
32 years of his life in prison.
But also the thing is that you do have to realize, where did he learn it from? Like what was going on in regular society by a guy that would never write it down.
Yeah.
Not regular society, but in regular for his world, aristocracy.
Yeah, I mean, he beat up the prince, and he just got sent to Italy, which is nice.
And he got sent to his creepy uncle.
His creepy uncle.
Showed him the ways
of
the church.
Yeah, he got sent to one of the creepiest places you could be.
Yeah. Mother and daughter sex.
Yeah, I mean, that's... What? I mean, like, there's no excuse, but it clearly sounds like he never had a chance at normality.
Right, of course.
But he did have the chance to talk about it.
Hey.
Yes.
Thank God.
I mean, that's the thing, is like, like you always say, how are we going to talk about it if we don't talk about it?
Exactly.
So at least he enters the conversation being like, hey, there's a bunch of elite people like me that believe in nothing.
Yeah, he lived...
Except pain.
He lived his filthy truth.
Yeah.
His awful truth.
Yeah.
We're going to start filming episodes, and if this one would have been just nonstop gifs of faces and hands.
I know.
Man, if the show ever gets animated or something.
Jesus. Good luck to them.
Good luck.
Unleash your art on it.
Go for it. Squarely.
Yeah. God.
feeling like a turd on a leash.
Unleash his turd.
Unleash your turd. So yeah, that was the ultimate pervert.
Yeah. Very high functioning. Very high functioning. Quite hyper.
I was gross. Like, guy fucking a horse was gross, but it it was just like one kind of.
And if we learned anything from
story.
John McAfee, who tweeted something about
an amazing tweet about men or humans raping whales.
Yeah. No.
Which I didn't even realize was a point of conversation.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah. Well, the message boards he's on. Basically, he says he's like, believe me, a blue whale can,
blue whale's got a heart the size of a Volkswagen and weighs 15 tons.
It's like a swing of its tail can wipe out an armada. He's like, if a guy's having sex with that whale, believe me, it's consensual. And we all read it and we're like, huh? What guy is banging?
Like, who are you having this argument with?
Yeah, nobody.
No. Well, sir, I've got a counterpoint on this one.
No human male on blue whale rape advocate is like, I don't think it's right and I don't think it's consensual. And he's like, trust me, I know a thing or two about the blue whale.
If you can fit your dick through the baleen of a sperm whale, well, I got news for you, buddy. She's asking for it.
Yeah. What are you saying? And also,
can I have some of whatever you're doing?
But also, if that happens, I'm going to say 110%. The blue whale does not know you're even there.
Maybe you, bro.
Will I wear a condom? I don't know I'm there.
Very good,
Aaron. That was absolutely disgusting.
Thank you, Aaron.
What an inaugural episode. Dear God in heaven.
I guess we should say
thank you, Starburns.
Thank you, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I've got another Patreon coming up this week.
Wonderful.
Yes. Patreon subscribers. We have Matt is doing a Daredevil.
No, that was last week. We're a week ahead on these.
Oh yes.
Oh,
so we're gonna have
very good.
Last week was a couple of Daredevils. This week we're gonna do the
jukebox.
Yes.
Long awaited chopped up jukebox. We're gonna just play some tunes, talk about some nonsense, behind the scenes music bullshit.
I love it.
And I'm gonna say goodnight. We love you. My name is John Fahey.
I love you. My name is Aaron Pita.
Matt Brousseau.
Good night, everybody. We love you.
Good night.